Hey y'all, welcome to Pleiadian Point of View. I'm Peyton and I'm a Pleiadian channel and starseed coach. So in today's video, the Pleiadians wanted to talk to us a little bit about resistance and how we can actually use our resistance in a positive way. But before we jump into talking about this critical topic, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the like button if you haven't done that yet. Now, one of the things that we are very aware of as lightworkers and starseeds is the need to release our resistance. All of our spiritual teachers talk about this. It's one of the things that we talk about nonstop in the spiritual community because our resistance is the only thing that separates us from what we are trying to create. It's only that we are pushing against something or have negative beliefs about it that keep us from manifesting and creating what we want to see in our lives. So the Pleiadians wanted to talk to us a little bit today about resistance, what it is, and how we can actually use it positively. Because something that happens in so many of us in the spiritual community is we start to fear our resistance. We start to freak out that we are creating what we don't want, that we're not in a high vibration. And of course, that is correct on one level, but we can get a little black and white about resistance and not use it the way it was intended, which is to steer us in the direction of what we want. So the function of our resistance is to see where we are not in alignment with what we want to create, or with what our higher self is creating for us. So when we go through those periods of having a lot of very active resistance, and you may recognize this as those days where your mind is just a gremlin, it is just talking negatively to you nonstop, or when you start to have a lot of negative manifestations. You know, we all have those days or weeks where it just seems like we just can't win. When we start to see a flare up of resistance in our lives, we actually have a really important opportunity because the P's always like to bring us back to the energetics of the situation. And so our resistance is just our energy. Even though it feels terrible, kind of sucks, it's our energy. It is just our energy that is running through a negative belief system, a negative lens, a negative definition, but it is still our energy. So whenever we start to feel a lot of resistance, what's happening is we're actually getting very close to releasing something that is blocking us. But a lot of us feel the resistance, we panic and get all freaked out about it, and so we don't actually take the next step of moving through the energy. But our resistance is actually fuel. It is our energy. We're just directing it towards something that we don't want. So one thing that we can do when we start to feel really resistant, those days you're just mad, you're angry, everything seems to be going wrong. If you take the opportunity to re-architect the energy, then you are using the resistance the way it was intended. Because our higher self never intended us to feel the resistance and panic in it. And so many of us, we can stay in that mode of resistance for a really long time. For some of us, it lasts entire lifetimes. But as the energies are speeding up, we want to use this energy the way it was intended so we actually move through that layer of consciousness. So whenever you start to feel that resistance is taking over your life, that is the perfect opportunity to start pulling back your energy. Because remember, it's just your energy that is hitting up against something, a negative belief, definition, perspective that your higher self doesn't agree with. So one of the things that the P's wanted to offer you today, when you're in a period of feeling very resistant, is that rather than trying to fix it, which is what we're going to be tempted to do as lightworkers and starseeds, right? We might try to think positive over the resistance. We might try to distract ourselves from it. We might try to talk positively over the top of it. That's a particularly nasty one. What happens when we do those things is we're strengthening the resistance. We're not actually doing anything. Instead, what the P's wanted to suggest to us is that we take that opportunity to pull back our energy. That is just energy that's essentially hitting a wall. So if you stop yourself when you start that downward spiral in your day and start to work on pulling that energy back into your heart chakra, and as y'all know, that is the P's favorite tool, is to pull everything into the heart. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I will link the videos at the top of the screen telling you exactly how to do that and why it's so important for us to do that. But when you are in a period of feeling very resistant, one of the most important things you can do is reclaim your energy, pulling your energy out of that thing, whatever that wall is that you're hitting. Because as long as we have energy that has momentum going in a particular direction, especially a direction we don't want, we are feeding that, right? The P's have talked to us a lot about this, about how we feed things with our energy. And so one of the ways we can flip this around and start collapsing and uncreating some of these things that give us such headaches in our life is by calling our energy out of it so that we do not continue to fund these timelines and these things that we don't want to see in our future. Because if we panic in the resistance and we freak out because it just, y'all, can feel terrible. We can feel like it is hopeless. We can get into despair. We can start that negative mind spiral that nothing ever works for me. I always get this wrong. This is never going to happen. I'm sure you recognize some of that from your own experiences. But instead, a better way to move through the resistance very quickly is to call your energy back. If you look at your resistance as energetic fuel, what happens is you start to dismantle the resistance. You break it down because you're not fighting it, and your ego mind loves to fight it. Your mind is going to try so hard to get you to spin out. That's just what the ego mind does. So the way we flip this around and use our resistance, first of all, in a positive way, so we don't create more of those things we don't want, is to reclaim our energy. And one way that I've been thinking about this lately is like pulling air out of a tire. So what happens when you pull the air out of a tire? It collapses, right? You've removed the energetic support. And that's a beautiful metaphor for how we can look at our resistance. It is something that is supporting a tire you don't want, right? But as long as we are feeding that tire with our energy, and we do that by pushing against it, by getting angry, getting mad, feeling hopeless. Those are all ways we put air in the tire. And instead, if we want to go the opposite direction, you can think of it as pulling the air out of the tire of whatever that manifestation is. Because what happens as you do that, you collapse the tire. And our negative timelines work the same way. When you pull your energy out, you start to defund it. You start to uncreate it because you're not pushing against it. As you start to suck your energy out of it, and you can imagine you're just pulling that energy of that thing, whatever's ruining your day, into your heart chakra, as you do that, two really important things happen. First of all, you're using your resistance as it was intended, just to show you where you've got energy not in alignment. And the second thing that happens is you are reclaiming the energy. You're taking yourself out of resistance with it by pulling it into your heart chakra. As you do, it's like you are feeding yourself. You are calling back your energy that you have been resisting. Because as the P's tell us all the time, everything in your reality is you. It is your energy. So whenever we are fighting anything in our world, anything we're seeing on the global stage, any person that we see out there who is setting our hair on fire, what happens is we are rejecting our energy. So the way we undo that is we want to pull our energy out. We want to re-architect it. As you do that, what happens is you'll move through the resistance very quickly. Because that is the only function of resistance, to show you where you have energy going someplace you don't want. But if you fight it by getting mad, getting hopeless, getting all freaked out about it, you glue it to you because you're energetically continuing to blow air in that tire. On the other hand, if you suck all of your energy out and just let your imagination go wild to give you that perfect image of how to pull your energy out of something and into your heart, as you do, you start to collapse that negative manifestation. You start to remove your energy from that lower timeline. It's all about using your resistance in a positive way. And there is a final step to this process that is very important, and that is to send your energy in a new direction. Now that you are starting to pull your energy back from what you don't want, very, very important to tell your mind and the universe what you want instead. because the universe hates a vacuum. So we want to tell our higher self and the universe what we would like to create instead. Very, very important part of the process. So never underestimate the importance of your imagination. But the other part of the equation is we have to pull our energy out of what we don't want. And we want to do that without fighting it, without pushing against it, because that way we deflate the tire. So the P's just wanted to talk with you a little bit about this to understand how you can use your resistance in a positive way. Because when we start to use our resistance the way it was intended, we move through it really quickly. It gets much easier. And that's what we're after, right? So that is what the P's wanted to share with you today. Don't forget, hit the subscribe button and the like button if you haven't done that yet. And I'll see you next time. Bye, y'all.